مساء الخير للجميع. Good evening. We welcome you today in the webinar 7. Okay, with Mr. Gedeon. He will explain to us today about the career preparation and entering the labor market, part 1. I think at the end of this session, we will be able to describe the labor market, what is include, concept, components, and the changes. Also, we may describe key trends in the labor market, describe how labor market information can be converted into intelligence for career guidance. But before Mr. Gedeon start, I would like to say that we create a Padlet for discussion tomorrow. This Padlet includes 4 questions, and Mr. Gedeon sent us yesterday the question, and we only updated a little in the coordination with Geneva. This Padlet includes questions about the career guidance, about the caps in your country, about the cooperation between GCC countries based on South-South triangular cooperation. So we would like to write the answers to put your ideas, okay, in English or in Arabic. The Padlet is the interface of the Padlet is in 2 languages, Arabic and English, and you may write what do you feel to the question in English or in Arabic. Okay, no problem for us to be able to discuss later tomorrow, to be able to define an action plan for the cooperation between GCC countries and ILO for the future steps. Now I can say that's for now. Sorry. And Mr. Gedeon, you may start. Please, the floor is yours.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, George. And greetings to everyone who's in the room. It's nice to be with you once again today. So today we are going to be looking at the labor market itself. Until now, we've looked at some of the key aspects of the world of work. And now today we look at the labor market. Once again, before I come to my PowerPoints, I would again encourage you to interrupt us at any time and stop if you stop me or stop George if you have any questions or clarifications. Yesterday, your points were so helpful. The links that you gave about the Arabic version of the ISCO, I think that was helpful to many people. So please feel free. This is, as I said, this is for you. It's not for me to just go on talking and talking. So please, at any time, if you need to stop me, please do that. Okay, so let me now bring the slides on. And yeah. Okay, you should be able to see the screen now.
Yes, it's very clear.
Yeah, okay. Right, yeah. All right. Okay, so as usual, we are going to be looking at looking back to our yesterday's session at some of the questions that I had set for you to think about the points we discussed yesterday. The self-learning points. Yeah. Okay. Right. So the first question that I had was about the framework for managing career information and managing labor market information. I had made that distinction between the two, and this is a chance for us to really look back at those 2 ideas. So the answer here, the framework for career guidance should be such that it allows the concomitant, that means the simultaneous analysis of 2 sets of information. And my question to you was to write a brief description of these 2 informations. What are they? Yeah. and you must have written it in your own words, but these are the points that should be there in your answer, right? What are we looking for? A scientifically validated basis upon which career guidance could be categorized into families. That's the first point. See, remember, career information today is available just in basketfuls. Everywhere you find career information. Formal, informal, friend is telling, father is telling, uncle is telling, all this. So our duty, our role as guidance counselors is to have a scientifically validated framework like the ISCO or like the Holland system or like the systems that I have showed you, which I have mentioned. So we need to have a system for your country. It can vary from one country to another. So we need to have this framework. Now, what should this framework address? It should address the core aptitudes and competencies and interest profiles required for success in these careers. Yeah. So therefore, the system should be such that an individual's suitability for these career families could be assessed and standardized in a reliable manner. Yeah. Those are the points that ideally should be in your answer. The next question was, write a brief note on why it is important that, why should we have this theoretical framework? And I've said here, we need to have the same theoretical framework to analyze both the individual and the world of work information. Yeah. In my experience, it's very common, particularly if career guidance takes a psychological approach, that you have a psychological theory that helps the client analyze herself. Yeah, my talents, my interests, and there's a psychological theory. And then when it comes to the world of work, there is a different theory. If we want something that works together, we need the same theoretical framework. And I have shared with you two frameworks. One is the Holland framework, and we've discussed all the limitations of the Holland framework, the cultural limitations and so on. And I've also shared with you a metacultural intelligences-based framework. So in this answer, what we are expecting is an effective career counseling system rests on a theoretically validated framework that allows the use of identical constructs, terminology, and methods for assessment and classification to promote both self-discovery as well as the discovery of the world of work. Yeah, those are the main points we covered. Yeah? And then we found that there are many ways of classifying occupational information. We said that simply having a list of occupations is not enough. We need to group them into families and make them into categories. Yeah. And very briefly, one of the common methods is this qualitative hierarchical approach. And what is this method? It is where a group of experts, career guidance experts, labor market experts, and so on, they sit together, and based on their experience, based on their knowledge, they make up families. Yeah, so that's why it's called qualitative. And it's hierarchical because these experts will start with a broad category. We saw in the ISCO that you have a broad category, professionals, broad category. Then under professionals, you have health. Under health, you have medicine. And under medicine, you have the general medical practitioner. So it goes from broad to the specific one. So that's one way of doing it, where the expert makes a decision that this career belongs here and another one belongs in another family. The other way of looking at it is not to just rely on the opinion of an expert, but to use statistical approaches. Yeah? And we saw how you can take all the different tasks of careers and then do statistical analysis like cluster analysis or factor analysis and see which tasks, which skills group together statistically through factor analysis or cluster analysis. So the tasks that group together will become a family. Right? That was the second method of occupational classification. Now we saw that both of these have limitations. An expert could be wrong, and a statistical approach, there could be methodological problems with statistics. So the common way today, the ISCO methodology, for example, mixes both. So you have expert opinions, and these experts' opinions are then statistically validated, statistically checked. So the experts design and develop a structure, and this is followed by statistical analysis to verify and modify the structure. So these were the three ways of classifying occupations. Yeah. This is at a pretty high level. We are not expecting you as a career counselor to do all these things, but it's important that you know that there is a method and there's a system behind any occupational classification. Yeah. Now, we also saw that there are advantages and disadvantages of these methods. The advantage, of course, is that it gives us a framework for exploration, framework for job matching, grouping jobs, doing inter-occupational comparisons. These are some of the advantages of the two methods that we spoke about. Yeah. Now, there are disadvantages. The disadvantage is that once you put a method into place, you can see when you saw the ISCO yesterday, for example, revisions of the ISCO happen once in 10, 15 years. Because revising means it's a big job. It's quite complicated. So what happens then, once ISCO 2008 has come, we are stuck with that until the next revision. When that happens and how validation, all these things can go on. So one of the disadvantages of a system is that it can become rigid and inflexible. Immediate adaptations to the changing labor market. We know that we saw that the labor market is very dynamic. What was relevant 6 months ago is no longer relevant. So when you have these very big frameworks, very complicated levels of categorization of jobs, then when a job becomes outdated, the system is not quick enough to catch up. Yeah, so that would be the downside. Yeah. The other question that we discussed yesterday is, how is an occupational classification system relevant to career guidance? Why should we have a classification system? Yeah. It helps a great deal because it gives us a framework. Yeah. Particularly if you're using those 4 points, 4 themes. If you've done self-exploration with a student, and the student and you come to the idea that linguistic and analytical skills are high for this student, then if you have a framework, you can take your student to the linguistic section or the analytic section, whatever. So it gives us a nice framework for exploration. It gives us a framework for matching. If I have high linguistic, then what are the linguistic careers? Journalist, teacher, lawyer. So there's a proper framework for matching. Okay. It's standardized. That means you can, as we said yesterday, for the whole country, you can have the same language, the same definitions, the same description of a career. Okay. Or else we don't know what's happening. It varies from one counselor to another counselor. It can vary, and it therefore can be used across different locations. Yeah. And when we put together occupational information, what are the key information units? Career name, career definition, career tasks. These 3 we saw. We have a very sound resource for this, starting with the ISCO, and for the Gulf countries, there is a specialized classification. So you'll get your 3 reliable definitions from there. Then we need to be able to say that this career needs this combination of aptitudes and interests, the potential part. And then the other information which is very necessary for a student, young person, is how do I get there? How long will it take? What are the exams I must do? What type of courses should I take? So these are the key career information units, if we make a dictionary, that the dictionary must have. The last point we looked at yesterday is this person-centered approach versus the labor market approach. Yeah. Both are very important, but for career guidance, the emphasis is on the person. Yeah, remember last time in our previous discussion, we said that labor market information is all concerned about the economy, trends in the economy, economic cycles, job availability, and so on and so on. Yeah. Whereas the person-centered approach takes the person into account and says, if this person has this talent profile, then what are the careers for him or for her? Yeah, so that difference. So what is the difference between the two? The person-centered approach focuses on the potential, the individual's capabilities, whereas labor market information would focus on the economics, the job availability. Person-centered approach is lifelong. Yeah? If a person has a linguistic and a spatial ability, it's there with him or her for the whole of her life. Whereas labor market information can change in 3 days. Yes, today what is in demand, those jobs are gone. There are no more jobs in that area. So the labor market information system will show a different profile very, very quickly. Yeah. The person-centered approach is psychosocial. It's about the mind, it's about culture, it's about the society, whereas the labor market side is economic. Yeah. These were some of the highlights of yesterday's work. And then just to go once again through creating a career dictionary for yourself, for your country. Some of the steps that we had discussed were using the ISCO AO8 as a starting point, as a resource. Now it could be any framework, right? And yesterday, our colleagues in the room yesterday gave us very, very useful Arabic or Gulf country links. Yeah, so starting with a sound resource like that, a reliable, well-investigated resource, and then so select one career from the ISCO common to your country. That's what I had asked you to do, and then we had all these steps. Once you've made your selections, then you get your career name, career definition, and tasks. Yeah. Then, as we said, the ISCO or even the Gulf country classification, the language would be technical most often. It would be a high-level, boring language usually, because it's not meant for young people to read. It's meant for somebody like George to read, yeah, who's a technical person. We need to then take this definition and make it youth-friendly. And I gave you examples of that yesterday. Yeah. And then there might be other country-specific resources, your own knowledge, to list this part, this bullet point, this names of courses, eligibility to enter the course, examples of jobs. These are country-specific. You will not get this in the ISCO. You will not get it in the Holland classification or any other. You need to do the research, or this career guidance working group needs to do the research and bring out the courses available in your country. And that's why we have this Padlet for us to discuss tomorrow. How can we work together? Do you want to work together to develop materials like this for your country? Right? Okay, so now let's go on to today's discussion. Today is the second last discussion, and tomorrow we'll have the final one. And this is now the career preparation part. Yeah. I hope by the end of the session today, if you also do the assignments and read the notes, you will be able to describe what is the labor market. Yes, what is the concept of the labor market? What is it made up of? And how does the labor market change? Yes, that's one learning outcome, I hope, that you will attain. Learn to describe trends in the labor market. The labor market, as we said, changes very rapidly, but there are patterns, there are trends which vary from country to country. Yeah? And how do we understand that? I hope today we'll discuss this. Yeah? Describe the concept and sources. Now, where do you get this labor market information? Yes, and there are very definite sources, and we will look at that today. And then finally, describe how LMI, labor market information, can be converted into intelligence. You have labor market raw data. Now we must be able to take that raw data and convert it into something that's relevant to our clients. How do we do that is a point that we're going to discuss today. Right? So here is our 4-step framework. We've looked at understanding myself. We had 2 sessions on the world of work. Now we are going to go to the final section, which is career preparation. How do we prepare our clients, our students, to actually go out and get a job? Yeah. Right. So preparation to enter the labor market. Okay. Accurate, easily accessible. This I've put in red, as you can see. Regularly updated labor market information is vital for any career guidance system. Yeah. And I've said this many times. Now, Parsons, John Parsons, is the father of career guidance. In 1909, he wrote a book which started the career guidance movement. And look at what he says about labor market information. He says it is knowledge of the requirements and conditions of success, advantages and disadvantages, compensation, what do you get from that job, opportunities and prospects in different lines of work. Yeah. Nearly 100 years ago, the father of career guidance defined labor market information in this way. Yeah. Now, it's important for us to note that this is a key point, that the type of information varies across individuals. What a high school student needs is very different from what a final year TVET graduate needs. Yeah, so we need to package this labor market information suitably for their ages. So varies across individuals according to the stage and conditions within which the career development is occurring. As we saw, career development happens in stages. High school is a stage. Then in your country, it may be higher secondary is another stage. College or TVET or baccalaureate is another stage. And this goes on throughout our whole life, isn't it? You and I, at our stage in life, have a career development need. We have a certain kind of labor market information that we need. So when we package it, when we start putting it into packages that our clients can use, we need to keep in mind that there is a variation across individuals and across stages of life. Now, this you may know already. Anyone who has studied basic economics would know this, but I thought we should just revise what economic sectors. Any economy, the most developed and the most emerging economy, is divided into sectors. The primary sector deals with the extraction and harvesting of natural resources. So examples would be agriculture, mining, where you're directly in contact with the natural resource, and that industry is, the purpose of that industry is to bring those materials out so that it can be used. The primary sector. So mining, agriculture, fishing, these are all examples of the primary sector. Then what happens? You've brought out the coal from the mine, but the primary sector has done that. Now what we need to use it, isn't it? Primary sector is not concerned about helping you convert the coal into fuel or converting the oil into something that you can put into your car. It's the secondary sector. This sector comprises construction, manufacturing, and processing. Basically, this sector comprises industries that relate to the production of finished goods from here. Primary sector gets out the raw material, secondary sector produces it, polishes it, cleans it, refines it. Okay? Then you have the tertiary sector, which is now the secondary sector has created petroleum. It has to be sold. It has to come into your motorcycle, into your car. Who does that? That is done by the tertiary sector. These are the retailers, entertainment industry, financial companies. So these companies provide services to the customer, to the consumer. So these are the most common three sectors. All economies are divided into these sectors, and we'll see how this plays into career guidance just. But there is one more sector, which is called the quaternary sector, and this is the research and development. The final sector deals with the knowledge or intellectual pursuits, including research and development, business, consulting services, and so on. Yeah. So it may be that we are wanting a better form, a more clean fuel. These are the people who work over here, which provide that service. And this is becoming more and more important, particularly in the context of climate change and environment. We need cleaner technologies. We need better, more efficient methodology. So there's a lot of demand, lot of job opportunities in this fourth sector. Right? So these four sectors, let's keep it in mind as we move ahead. As an example, I am interested in jewelry, and I make jewelry as a hobby. Here is an example of the primary sector. These are rubies. Yeah. These are also rubies. This is a photograph that I made when I was in Vietnam, where you get the raw rubies like this just in the field. So when a farmer is cultivating, they find it and then they sell it on the roadside as if it is some fruit. And so I bought these and made things. So this is the primary sector example. Here is the secondary sector, where if you take me for an example, I took these rubies and made it into a pendant. Yeah. So the raw material being converted, and here this is not me. This is a picture from the internet. You can see this hand is working with this tool very precisely to make something beautiful with these jewels. Secondary sector. Then you made it. Now what is going to happen? It has to be sold, isn't it? So there you have the tertiary sector. These are pictures from Lebanon, I think. So you have the jewelry shop, and you go there, and then you buy a engagement ring or a wedding jewelry or whatever to make, and I'm sure somebody becomes very happy if you buy it and give it to them, and that's the retail and the tertiary sector. Now it can also be that we want to make better products. We want to know how can we minimize the wastage of material. We want to know how this flame can be made hotter or colder, whatever it is, and that is the research and development sector. Yeah. Just an example from the jewelry industry. Right. Now, moving further forward, the concept. What is the labor market and what is the concept? In the labor market, those who need labor, on the one hand, you have those who need labor. These are our employers, yeah, the ones who need labor, and those who supply labor. Yeah, so those who need labor interact with those who supply labor. Right? The International Labour Organization needs the services of Mr. George and me and Asma and Zunara and the others. So they come to us and we supply them with hopefully a good quality labor. Yeah. So this is the labor market. Now, this interaction is based on a mutual agreement about the price. This is a crucial point in career guidance, because your students today, as I've told you many times, you walk into a classroom, and you ask them, what is it that you really want? I want lots of money. I want to become rich. I want to become wealthy. Yes, we all want you to become rich and wealthy. So the price of your labor is a negotiation between these two parties, the seller here and the buyer over here. Now, this is the reason I have this over here is because large sections of our economies do not have this agreement contracting that goes on. So in India, if you take India as an example, 2/3 of the Indian economy are outside the formal labor market. Yeah? There are no rules, there are no conditions, and it's a very arbitrary kind of an arrangement. Yeah? We don't want our young people, our children, to fall into that trap. That is why qualifying is important. That is why to be able to say, I am recognized by the government or by the education system of my country as an engineer. That will help you negotiate your price. Yeah. Supply. What do we mean when we say supply? It's the entire pool of available workers of all types possessing various levels of skills and ability. So when you look at the labor market as a career counselor, you will find that there are levels of skills. Someone who has done a 3-month coaching something in mobile phone repair is at a certain level, whereas someone who has a degree in electronics is at another level, right? And that is the dynamic. The higher is your qualification, the more today, the more skills oriented is your qualification, the better is the price that your student can command. Yeah. I don't know how it is in your country. I suspect it would be very similar to mine. But in my country, they all have degrees, high-level degrees, MA, PhD, but they don't command a high price in today's labor market because their actual skill level is very low. Yeah. Today, an engineer who's finished 4 years of education, if that engineer needs further training, further skill development by the company, then the price that he starts with would be a very low price. So what is the message for us from career guidance? That as we take our children step by step through career guidance, we should ensure that they're also getting skills. Yeah, it could be through work experience, it could be through internships. It's these skills that are finally going to give them a strong negotiating power when they come for a job. So that's the supply side. demand side, the requirement of the labor of these workers at any given point. So this demand varies, and we're going to see how it varies. Today, for many years in Bangalore, where I live in South India, the demand was very, very high for information technology professionals. Right? Today, the demand is slowly going down, and biotechnology is starting to rise up. Yeah. So what are these patterns in your country? It's something that we will learn now, how you can capture that and pass it on to your students. So therefore, the labor market finally is composed of, is composed of workers in various industries or in the government, employers, private or government organizations, self-employed. We mustn't forget this group. They're also in the labor market. Yeah. They are self-employed. They are their own boss, and they are also very much part of the market. Yeah. Those who are unemployed are also part of the market. It's not only those who have a job, those who are partially employed, unemployed, because these can potentially get a job. Yeah. Right? Those who are in the process of entering the labor market. So your final year college students, final year TVET students who are just about to enter the labor market, we need to count them as well into the composition of the labor market. Right? Okay. So now moving on from here, what are the factors that influence? Yeah. What are the factors that? This idea of yesterday I spoke to you about sectors. Yeah. And I said that career information, world of work information is independent of sectors. Yes, because in a sector, you would need a wide variety of aptitudes. But today we're talking about sector and geography. Yeah? Again, of great relevance to you because just now, George and I were having a conversation about how in Lebanon, you have snow, half an hour down, you have the beach. Yeah? So you can see the sectors can vary based upon their geographies. Now, the sectoral change. So what is the meaning of sectoral change? Change in the relative share taken by the primary, secondary, and tertiary economies in a particular economy. So as we saw, an economy has these three parts, three sectors. Now, in some economies, the primary sector may take a major share because most of the jobs are in the business of extracting oil, for example. Yeah. In another sector, it might be the secondary. In another country or another geography, it may be the secondary sector, which receives raw materials, and the bulk of work over there is processing, manufacturing, conversion of raw material into usable products. Now, this is a geographic matter. It could also be in another area that what is produced here is sold here. What is produced in China, for example, China has got high secondary sector that needs to be sold. So it could be another country. For example, if you take Dubai, yeah, you have all your wonderful fairs, right, where people come and they sell. Yeah, so certain countries have specialized in the tertiary sector. So now sectoral change means what? It could be that a country that was for a long time in the primary sector is now moving. Jobs are shifting from here to here. And we are seeing this a lot in our countries. Yeah, let me explain that further. For example, in many developing countries, there has been a noticeable change from the primary to the tertiary sector over the last few decades. Yeah, and I'll explain that to you. This has had a number of labor market implications. So if there is this change from primary to tertiary, what does that mean? It means jobs are moving from one sector to another sector. So for many years, it might have been that engineers are needed because the sector deals with the natural environment and mining and prospecting and all that. So supposing that environmental condition has changed, or some other global issue has come along and that sector no longer is important, those jobs will become less important. Other jobs will come. So for us as counselors, keeping in touch with this is of very great importance. Yeah, and I will come to later on, how can we keep in touch? So for example, retail firms, this is something that we see quite a lot these days. For example, retail firms that used to employ anyone. That means in a retail firm, let's say it is a mall, and in the mall there is a shop which is selling cookies. All you needed then was a person standing there to smile and say, which cookie do you want? And here it is, and collect the money and make the bill. Today, that's no longer possible. Yeah, anyone with a basic education could have been a sale. Now, today, the demand is for qualified retailing professionals. That's the change. Yeah, so it might be that you have a very enthusiastic young person who would make a good salesperson, but without this qualification of a diploma or a certificate, finding a job could become difficult. This is what sectoral change means. You also have geographical change. And what is that? Movement of jobs from one location, from this city to another city, from the north to the south, or east to west, or even out of the country. Jobs are moving today. Yeah. Initially, this is something particularly special for us today. Initially, people used to migrate to work. Yeah, people went from the village to the city to work. People went from India to Canada for looking for work. But with globalization, jobs migrate to people. And this is let's say the last 15 years, we've seen this phenomenon of people are not moving, people are still where they are, but the jobs are coming to them because it is cheaper to engage that labor force. If you take Volvo, for example, Volvo, the big truck company, yeah, and if I was face to face with you, I would ask you, where is the Volvo company? Yeah, Volvo is a Swedish firm, right? And it had thousands of workers in Gothenburg in Sweden. But where is Volvo today? Bangalore, about 20 minutes from my house, where there are 18,000 people working. So the Volvo truck parts come here to Bangalore in huge boxes, and our workers put those boxes, we put those trucks together. So jobs migrate to people. Yeah. Today, we've also come to a point in the last 2 years of jobs migrating to people, not only to people, but into people's home. Work from home today has become so normal, so common. For 2 years, we were very comfortably sitting in our homes and working there, and that has continued, isn't it? So this is what I mean when I say there is a geographical change. All of this has implications for your career guidance. Yeah. If jobs are migrating to people and work from home has become much more possible today, then gender comes into the story. More girls who are culturally not allowed to go too far away from their homes, today they can have a great job because they can pull the job to where they are. The relocation of jobs from one geographical area to another can occur because of many things. Why does this migration of jobs happen? One is supply of demand for products and services has changed. Business conditions and costs, that's what I mentioned to you now. And when I went to the Volvo factory to find out what was going on there, it is 1/10 of the cost to employ an Indian engineer when compared to a Swedish engineer. So obviously, it's much cheaper to produce the Volvo machine here. They can pull their cost down, or their profit margins can be much higher. So business conditions and costs can cause this change. Government policies, it could be that government today, what I hear very much these days is in the Gulf countries, your government policies are trying to broaden out and create other kinds of employment opportunities for your young people. Yeah. So government policies can cause this change. Competition, this is something that's happened here in India, and it can happen anywhere. Right? We were the world's greatest outsourcing destination for these business BPO jobs. Okay? Almost all the companies in the world had their outsourced jobs here. This is now faded out completely because it was cheaper to have an Indian telephone attendant, yeah, a call center agent, yeah, big cost advantage. Now the Indians started saying, okay, we want to be paid more, we want to be paid more. Till today, you might as well keep the job in your own country. India has become so expensive. Then what happened? Bangladesh, our neighbor, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, places like this said, we can still offer you a great cost advantage. So jobs have fled. So the call center business in India is just almost crashing to the bottom. Yeah. So competition can change the way the market is playing in your country. Environmental conditions, this has become so real now, isn't it, with the climate change, and we are feeling it now. It's no longer just something fanciful that yes, climate, we must be sensitive to climate. Today it is, if you're not sensitive to climate, things are going to get much worse. So certain types of jobs, certain types of careers will die. Certain types of careers will rise. For example, the most obvious example is everything that has to do with alternative energy, production of alternative method, machines like solar panels or electronic vehicles and so on. The demand is going up. Everything linked to that, marketing of that, selling of that, and advertising of that, all these things, because of the environmental changes, this can change. Yeah. Technological obsolescence, that means a certain technique, certain technology was used, that has become outdated, and that's a classic example of what is happening now. We spoke about the fourth industrial revolution, and in the fourth industrial revolution, the older information technology methods have become obsolete, and today we are talking about the machine becoming intelligent and this autonomization of machines. Yeah, so these are examples of change. Trends. Now let's look quickly at these patterns. A trend means a pattern. Okay, there are trends in the labor market. Today there is something which is calling for people, and in 2 years it's no longer the trend, and something else becomes the trend. Yeah. One of the trends that we are finding in the labor market is that the pace of change, the speed at which is changing, things are changing, has become much, much, much faster. Yeah, I've said it earlier on, but if you take software engineer, they tell me that if they are not keeping up to date at 6-month periods, they become out of date. Yeah, so the change is so much more faster. Like other markets, labor markets also change at all scales and in all geographies. In recent times, the pace, magnitude, and complexities have accelerated. Why? Due to these macro processes, global processes over which we have very little control. Yeah? Globalization, advances in technology, greater access to information, and these other shifts. Yeah? So while we're on this topic, I also want to mention this point here, this idea of globalization. We use this a lot, isn't it? And we have used it a lot. But look back over the last 3-4 years. The world is getting de-globalized because of political attitudes, because of migration and immigration from one country to another. The economies are getting much more conservative, and they are saying, we want to, first of all, keep our jobs for our own people. So from an open economy, we are becoming gradually a much more closed economy. Yeah, we need to keep that in mind, particularly if one of your career guidance activities is helping young people to migrate to these migration destinations like Canada, Sweden, Norway, New Zealand, and Australia, and so on. Keep in mind that these countries, the world is shrinking, it's closing over once again. Yeah. So this accelerated change could also be because of altered the labor market by changing the number and types of jobs available. I mentioned, we've just discussed this. The number of jobs available in a particular geography may get washed up, supposing it was a mining region. Yeah, and for many reasons, that mining industry has closed or it's not allowed to function anymore. Obviously, the jobs over there will disappear. Yeah. Okay, this is another reason for change. As I said just now, working spaces have given place to virtual working places, and working from home has become very, very common. This is a phenomenon The next three are very important because this is going to characterize the future of the lives of our clients. Yeah, non-standard work. Yeah. We've spoken a lot about qualifications and how you need to have something to offer in the labor market, etc., etc. But when we look at the market now, the steady job. I joined a company when I was a young person as an intern, and then I became a junior manager and up and up and up. This picture is changing quite a lot now. That steady job is becoming more and more rare, and it's giving place to what we call the phenomenon of non-standard work. Yeah? And what do we mean by that? More and more workers today are engaged in part-time work, contract work, temporary work, on-call work. Yeah, these are all names where the worker is working, but he is not working for an employer. Yeah. The worker of today is free to work for more than one employer or to be self-employed. Yeah. I'm an example of this. Yeah. I have my office, my organization over here in India, and that's mine, so doesn't count. But my clients are the ILO, the World Bank, UNICEF, WHO, all of these, and I offer my services to all of them. Yeah. And right now, I'm working on this project for the ILO. In next week or so, I'm going off to a university where I'm a professor and I teach there for 3 weeks. Right. Yeah. So non-standard work, right? It's great, but what are the implications of it? It has to be executed in non-standard hours. I have to fit myself into the schedules of my client. Here in India now, it is 7:30 in the evening, and I'm still working. Non-standard hours. I cannot tell Mr. George or Asma, no, it's out of my working hours. I'm not going to come. Yeah, you're all there, isn't it? So I have to fit into you if I want to be a non-standard worker. If I was a standard worker, I can very well say, oh, this is at 9 o'clock I start, 5 o'clock I finish, and I'm off. The world is changing. Our children are going to have to learn to fit into this non-standard hours because their clients may be in another time zone. Yeah. Agency work is also part of non-standard. This is another interesting phenomenon. Agency work is a company may contract with another company for the supply of labor. Okay, so you have, let's say, it's become very common here. Let's say you're running a conference, all right, and you are a small organization, 20 people, and this is a huge conference. So you go to an agency and say that I need catering people. That company will send you their catering people to take care of the food, right? Now, the employer of those people who are working for you is someone else. They're not accountable to you. If you have a problem with someone who's unhygienic when she's serving the food in your conference, pulling him up, no point. You'll have to go to the agency and make your complaint, right? So this has become another phenomenon. Who is working for you is not really your employee. Yeah. So freelancing, independent consulting, all this has become so common now. Yeah. And today young people are also saying, just again this morning, my morning's client doesn't want to work for any young person, 18 years old, hasn't even started college. And what is her plan in her head? I will work for this company, that company, I will travel, I will have lots of spare time. Yeah. They are not interested in a full-time committed job. Our generation, the generation that we are looking at, the so-called generation Z, I think they are, yes, they want to be independent. They want non-standard work. So in career guidance, if you're going to come in saying you need to look for a job, you need to commit to an employer, maybe we're not talking the same language with them. And they may think this counselor is out of date and he lives in another generation. Yeah? This has very much become real. Now, because of non-standard work, there is an issue which our clients need to become aware of, and they're young, they're not aware of it, and we need to bring that up. And that is this employer-employee relationship. This changes because no longer is the employer required to take care of your non-work needs. No longer does the employer have to think of your pension. No longer does the employer to think of your health insurance. All that is on your side. You want to be insured, you go and do it. You want to have health security, you go and do it. Company is not going to do it because you're not fully part of that company. Yeah. An important point to be noted, these changes have redefined the employer-employee relationship. Yeah. If you take me, for example, now, in this job that I'm doing with the ILO, supposing something happens to my health, ILO is not at all obliged in any way to help me out. In fact, you have to sign a contract saying, these are the terms, anything outside this is not the problem of the employer. So it's been redefined. A person following the non-standard approach to work is no longer under the complete control of an employer. So you have total freedom. You can say, I'm not taking this job. I can say, I'm not doing this. I have had enough. I'm taking 3 weeks holiday. I'm not going to take any contracts. Total freedom, great sense of freedom. Yeah. Yeah. So the non-standard worker of today can choose the kind of work to take up as well as how much work to do. I might say that I don't need to make millions and millions. If I make this much, these are my needs. This much, if I make, it's enough. The rest of the time, I'm going to not work. This is a very real phenomenon today. Yeah. Therefore, as a result, if you're saying you want this is something that I try and point out to young people. Say, yeah, you're free. You can work, don't work, go on holiday, work half time. But remember, your well-being becomes your own responsibility. The employer is not responsible for the employee's well-being, as were employers of the past. If in a factory you get injured, your hand is cut off, the factory, the employer is bound to care for you and give you everything that you need. Yeah? But if you're on your own, this no longer comes into play. So the word here that they use in sociology is the social contract. The contract between employer and employee today in this non-standard environment becomes very, very loose. Employee is saying, I'm not going to give my life to you. Employer is saying, okay, you don't give me your life. I'll give you whatever money that we agree. That's it. Don't ask me for anything. Yeah. But this is the future. Yeah? More and more companies are going down this pathway. And on the one hand, to a young person, it looks great because of the freedom. But they also then need to say that I need to start putting up my own plans for my retirement, my pension, my health, and this part becomes part of career guidance. Now, this has led to this word, precarization of work. Yeah? Precarization. It's a big word, but the meaning is very simple, but very, very important. Comes from the word precarious. Precarious means what? Not stable. Any moment you're going to fall off. It's like standing on a chair with 3 legs. Somehow you're precariously balancing on the chair. Work has become precarious. Going from the word precarious, labor market analysts today refer to the precarization of work to describe the manner in which work for some sections of the labor force has become unsure, precarious, uncertain, and the worker is expected to work without guarantees. If something happens to me, no guarantee. If that job, let's say today I have to, when I'm talking to you and it's part of my deal with the ILO. Supposing something happened and this meeting couldn't happen, I will not be paid for it. You see, I mean, I don't mean but there is no guarantee in the precarization of it. And some jobs are extremely precarious. On the one hand, the global market is becoming increasingly integrated for highly skilled people, yes, offering them so there is high mobility, high wages, but it's also becoming precarious. You may say that I'm going to charge, 2,000 euros a day. Fine, you're so great, you're so fantastic, we want you for 2,000 euros a day. Yeah? But that's it. We'll give you the internet connectivity, we'll give you fantastic secretarial support for 4 days, story over. So it becomes, what if you don't get another contract? Yes. What if you are injured? So this is another phenomenon which our young people are going to confront. Yeah. Right. So these three points that I mentioned. So let me pause here just for a second to ask you if you have any questions or points that you want to clarify. I hope I'm making sense to you. Okay, let me move on. And again, stop me at any time if you have questions. This critical point for us now, information, LMI, labor market information. What is labor market information? It's all this: knowledge, facts, data, institutional information, supply and demand of various kinds of occupation. So it is, in a very basic level, it is job information as against the world of work information. This is job information, the type of jobs, how many jobs, supply and demand of these jobs, different types of jobs. This is what labor market information, in a very simple way, this is what it means. Yeah. Now, LMI, labor market information, should help us. We are labor market agents, right? On the one hand, our clients, our young people, and us, we need labor market information to help our clients make their job choices. So good labor market information will assist labor market agents like us to make informed plans, informed choices. Right? So for example, if we are able to, if we know with good certainty that a certain area, a certain geographical area in your country is going to grow because there is government policy, there is investment, there is a lot of interest in that area, passing that information on to your client and saying that, look, do you want to consider shifting and looking for work in that city? Yeah, that is what good labor market information should help us to do. Yeah. Okay. So this is just going back to an earlier point. On the supply side, LMI covers the availability of workers by region, occupation, industry, and firm. So LMI is a database. So if you go into an LMI, the labor market information system of Bahrain, if it's a good system, you should be able to see how many workers are available in this country. In which region are they available? What are their occupations? Are there, how many doctors are there? How many lawyers are there? How many engineers are there? In which areas is there very few workers? Yes. So this is what the supply side of labor market information should give us. Yeah. It should also tell us the skill and educational level of the workers. So in Saudi Arabia, let's say the highest number of workers available are engineers, let's say, as an example. Then we also need to say, now, at what level are these engineers? Okay, are they basic certificate diploma level? Are they degree holders? What are they? Yeah, so when we're putting a labor market information system together, these are points that need to come in. Yeah. What are other characteristics? A good LMI database will also tell us what is the age of the workforce. Is it a young workforce? Is it an aging workforce? If you take the Japanese workforce, for example, it's an aging workforce. The average age of the Japanese workforce, for example, is beyond 52, the average age. Very few young people, because the overall country is old. Are there more men or women? Are there very few representation of women in the workforce? What is the disability profile? Yeah, where are the people who are blind, who are deaf, who are having other disabilities? Are they represented in the workforce? Are there special groups like Aboriginal people, indigenous people, tribal people? Something that I work a lot with these days in Sweden and Norway is in the LMI, what is the immigrant status? People, for example, in 2016, we had the whole crisis in Syria. So a large number of Syrians have been invited to come into Norway. So they are a significant proportion of the workforce. Okay. That is what LMI should cover. Yeah. Another point in LMI is who is entering the labor force. Is it young people, older people, retiring people, immigrants? Yeah, demographics, the demographics of the labor market. Yeah. That's the supply side. On the demand side, what is the employment pattern? This is for us, very, very useful if we can get this information. Employment by region, occupation, industry. Yeah. In which region is there great demand for workers? Which occupation is starting to grow? Which occupation is starting to go down? Is there a certain industry which is starting to build up in your country? Yeah, the skill, educational qualifications, credential requirements of various jobs. Okay, so in your country, in my country, for example, if you don't have a master's degree, you can't even think of getting a job. That's how things have played out in India. Yeah. Whereas in Singapore, when you look at it, a bachelor's degree is a big deal. If you have a bachelor's degree, you're doing well, and that's enough. Master's degree and all that is much higher. So what is the educational pattern expectation in your country? Vacancies, job vacancies, that's on the demand side, obviously. Projections. Now we will come to, in another slide, we'll come to, it's important for us as counselors to know if you go into life science, for example, what is its job potential? Yeah, all over the world today, because of the COVID, we have certain branches of life science which today have become very, very much in demand. Virology, epidemiology, these are professions. Yeah. So what is the occupational projection? Now here, a point that I always bring up, I'm a psychologist, not an economist, so I always bring up this point. It's important for us to know about occupational projections. Yes, true. Yeah, but not all our children, not all our clients will fit into the employment, the trends of an economy. Right? It may be there is a student that you meet who is talented, very highly talented in a field for which the employment projection doesn't match. So as a result, what happens? We tell that student, forget your talent. You need a job. Abandon your ideas and your dreams. Come and get a job. Yes, that's one way of doing it. Or the other way of doing it is to say, let's see how best we can integrate your talent into the labor market projection. So the warning here for us is, while we need to know what labor market projections are, where are the trends and where are the jobs, we also need to be sure that we are keeping the person at the heart center of career guidance. Because for me, career guidance is first of all a person-centered act. The market comes after that. Yeah, for us to think about. Price. Remember, we said there is supply, there is demand, and there is price. On the price side, what are the wages, salaries, and this is the most important thing that your young person wants to know. Okay, I'm going to study to become a lawyer. How much will I earn? When will I become a millionaire? Yes, we need to know that. Sometimes it's embarrassing when we have to say that, a teacher earns less than a lawyer, but it's our duty to tell our students this. But again, something that I bring up in our methodology is, yes, wages are important, but if you're not good at your job, you will not get that wage. There is no such thing as a high-paying career. A historian can receive a high salary. Yeah. An engineer, the most popular career here in India, an engineer can receive a very low salary if he's not a good engineer, if she's not a good engineer. Yeah, so wage is directly connected to what you can offer. How good are you at your profession? Yeah. The total compensation, something that students don't understand, and we need to bring it to their attention, is when they're offered a wage of 60,000 euros a year, let's say, yes, that is not 60,000 rupees for you to take home and be happy. Yeah, you will probably take home about 40 or 35,000 of that, because from that is cut many, many things. So what is your take home? That idea should come into their mind. What is your take home, and what is actually your salary? Yeah, so supply, demand, and price are broken down by occupation, industry, and region. That's ideally how labor market information should be processed. Right. Yeah. Now, again, these are ideas. These are examples of what labor market information should be. Now, for us as counselors, we need this information in our day-to-day career guidance work. And that's where the idea of labor market information and labor market intelligence comes into play. Yeah. Now, we could say that we need a big software and a database and all these things that I've spoken about. Ideally, if your country can make that, great. There are people who can help you to do that. But we cannot wait until the government has this fancy labor market system, information system. We can produce labor market information ourselves. As counselors, simple techniques, I'll talk to you about them. It may sound to you, oh, this is so simple, it's not good enough, but that's a starting point. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now information is raw units of data. What is that? There is a job in nursing. There is a job in physiotherapy. There is a job in allied health. Like these are raw units of data. Right? That's labor market information. Now, if you say there are jobs in nursing, there are jobs in physiotherapy, there are jobs in dentistry. Yes. If you're going to turn that into intelligence, what are we saying? There are jobs in the health sector. So raw information, converting it into intelligence. So labor market intelligence, processing and interpreting this data such that is relevant to a particular context and a platform upon which decision-making can happen. Yeah. So there is raw information all around us. And something that I say to when I'm training counselors is, what is the textbook of the career counselor? It's not what I have written. It is not what Mr. George has written or ILO has written. It is the daily newspaper or the daily television broadcasts. So if you're going to be a good career counselor, you need to be in touch with what is going on in the news, daily simple news. If you read the newspapers, you will see that this is an industry that's dying in my country. Slowly, slowly, it's fading off. Yeah, that is the conversion of, at a very basic home level, you can start by processing and interpreting information. Yeah? Because labor market information, all this fancy stuff that I spoke to you for the last half an hour, is not available in an organized manner in most countries. Yeah, I have been involved in so many countries setting up a LMI system. Very costly, all done, all set up. Then what happens? There is no budget left to keep the LMI up to date. You see, therefore the job falls to our lap. If the country is going to develop it, fantastic. We should keep up the pressure, and maybe one of the things that we can discuss tomorrow is how can we institute a good LMI for the Gulf countries? Great project. We can really work at that. We have very qualified people from the ILO side who can help us to do that. Yeah, yes, if that happens, great. But tomorrow, when you're sitting in front of a young person, are you in a position to give that boy or that girl LMI? Yes, you should be able to, yeah, because it improves the impact and value of career guidance. But remember, however good is an LMI system, its meaningfulness and usefulness comes only when it's transmitted through a career guidance counselor. If you put it, I've done a research to where you've just given labor market information to college graduates. Here are the jobs in this city. This is the pattern. This is what you should do. At the end of it, they're confused. But when it goes through you as a guidance counselor, and you can interpret this data and say, look, the pattern is that there is a great demand for biotechnologists. Yes. Yeah. But this is your aptitude profile. And let's talk about whether your aptitude profile is matching this labor market trend. Right? When you, as a counselor, become the mediator of information, then it stops being information and it becomes intelligence. Yeah. So therefore, it becomes important for us to identify what is useful. Labor market information can be huge for us, simple at our level, what is useful for our client. Yeah. Somebody called Jenny Bimrose, a friend of mine and a very well-known career guidance specialist who has specialized in labor market for career guidance, works at the University of Warwick. And the points I'm putting down here are from her thinking. The LMI areas that are known to be useful from the client's point of view are, what is the competition that I am going to face? Yeah. If you take engineering in India, or take medicine in India, as I said to you earlier on, 17 lakh, 1.7 million young people write the medicine entrance every year in this country, right? How many places are there? 90,000. That's all. That many children are not going to make it. They don't know this. They don't understand. So what is the competition faced? Something that is important for us to give. What are the entry routes? Is there only one entry route? I'm very keen on medicine, but I didn't make it into the medical school. What are the other routes? Can I come in as a allied health person? Can I come in as a nurse? Can I come in as a social worker in medical social worker? Can I come in as a psychologist? Yeah. Different entry routes. Yeah. What exactly are the rewards that I get from this? Yeah. What is the pay packet? What are my promotions that I get? How long is it going to take? These are points that are useful for clients. This is something that's come up in the recent past, this word, travel to work areas. People are saying more and more that I don't want to travel a long distance to get to work because of traffic, because of the time lost, because of the cost, because of the health issues that are there. So region specific, in my region, where travel to work duration is less, what are the jobs? Young people are asking for this information, and informing ourselves of this is important. And the prospects of securing employment in particular careers. Remember, we said in our very first discussion, a career is made up of jobs. So when we talk about, say, psychologist, that's your career guidance. From the labor market side, what do I do as a psychologist? I can be a school counselor. I can be a person who works in the army. I can be a person who works in hospitals. Those are all the jobs of a psychologist. Yeah. So connecting career to job is labor market information, which your client would find very helpful. Yeah. What is the qualification that's needed? There's something that young people are asking for. Do I need to study for 15 years and get a PhD before I am recognized, or is it a shorter duration? So LMI areas that are known to be useful from the client's perspective, based on Jenny Bimrose's research, these are things we need to equip ourselves with when we are doing the final step in this four-step process, which is the career preparation process. There's another researcher called Offer. Offer is the name of a person, and points out to 6 types of LMI. Demand for labor, how easy is it to get a job in this occupation or industry? Yeah, very hard to get a job as a medical doctor in India because there are so many. Very hard to get a job as an engineer in India because there are just too many, hundreds and thousands of them. Yeah. So this morning I was doing an analysis of another research project. Yeah. Out of 800 engineers whom we were analyzing, yes, out of 800 of them, 412 or something are not doing engineering because there are no jobs for them. Passing this LMI on to our clients. What are the, according to Offer, what are the progression routes? How do I can start here. Okay, this is my career dream. Couldn't get in. Can I start here and make it through a different path? Yeah. For us to chew and for us to think of. Yeah. Geographical area, there is this massive rural-urban shift that you find in many countries. Now, when they come to the cities thinking, I've arrived in the city and now I will get a great job. No, you won't. Perhaps there's a better job, more wholesome job for you where you are. Yeah, so geographical availability, something that we need to start becoming familiar. Overall trends that we've spoken about. This is another point. When they are studying, how transferable is my skill to the job? Now, let's say I have a diploma in auto mechanics, right? Now, from auto mechanics, with that, one transferability question is, with that diploma, can I go to another Gulf country with the same qualification? Yeah, I think you can, because you're already you're a group of countries already. So the transferability of a qualification across geographies. Also, the transferability of a qualification across jobs, across careers. And now the example that I use here often is, let's take engineering and let's take automobile engineering. Now, if we've counseled our student to study automobile engineering, the transferability of automobile engineering to another field is very limited. He can be an automobile engineer, that's it. If he's now wanting to shift to something like robotics or something, then he needs to requalify. So a basic principle that I try and keep in mind when I'm talking about labor market information to young people is, keep your specialization broad. So a mechanical engineer has a much higher transferability than an automobile engineer. If you've done mechanical engineering as your foundation, then you can come into auto mechanics, you can go into robotics, you can go anywhere because of such a high transferability of your qualification. Yeah, a point for us to keep in mind. Okay. I need to go a little quickly now. This point which I mentioned earlier on, clients need different types of information at their different stages in their life. I mentioned this earlier. At high school, the requirement may be higher for career information. Who is an engineer, who is a doctor, and our 5 questions which we went through yesterday and day before yesterday. At high school, that may be the requirement. At someone who's at a higher level in the educational pathway, maybe that person needs type of course to take, vocational or university, this big question that comes up. Or it could be the person is finishing university, finishing vocational training, and the LMI that she needs is job LMI. Yeah, so you can see as life goes on, the needs change. A student who's completing a course of education which leads towards a job comes closer to requiring labor market. So someone who's completing a course requires hard labor market information, internship, skills to enter the labor market, job offers, all of that, right? There are other kinds of people whom we said, people who've been laid off. This is becoming more and more a phenomenon today because of precarization of work, because of non-standard work. People have finished their one-year contract. Now the company is saying, we don't need you anymore. They have a career guidance need, which we need to be able to address. Yeah, immigrants. I'm not sure about your countries, but there are people coming into your countries as labor. They too need career guidance, right? Which school to go to? Many of my friends and colleagues work in your countries, and they're often confused. Which school should I put my child? I don't know about the system in this country. They need to afterwards come back to India. Yeah, very desperately they need career guidance. So it could be that people who are coming into your country, the immigrants coming into your country, are part of your clientele. Yeah? It could also be that your young people from Bahrain or Oman are going out to the other parts of the world in search of a job. Yeah? Preparing them for that, very, very big requirement. Yeah? They are not aware that the way the labor market works in Sweden is very different from the way it works in Syria or our countries. Yeah, so I am on the other side of it, where immigrants have already landed in these countries and they are lost. The counselor is lost, and the immigrant is also lost. And part of my work is to try and repair these things. But we can do a lot even before they leave, even if they're leaving for education. Yeah, supposing one of your students is going off to England for education, yes, She's got her admission, fees have been paid, but there's going to be a massive cultural difference. Yeah, the freedom over there is something that she's not been brought up to deal with. Method of teaching is different. Yeah, so all this becomes part of career guidance. Somebody who's planning a career shift is another client. Retirement, yeah, some of us are getting close to that. And when I finish, what am I going to do with my life? I worked for 45 years over here in this company. Now what would I do? It's another kind of LMI that we need. So therefore, LMI needs to be tailored to the client's requirement, and that the closer the person is to actually entering the labor market, the more specific would be these LMI requirements. The last point, we're almost at the end now, is this is something that I want to emphasize. When labor market information is delivered prematurely, sometimes, career guidance becomes where you walk into the classroom and just give them labor market information. This is the job pattern. These are the demand areas. This is the sector which is growing, etc., etc. Yeah? It becomes confusing for the young person. Okay. Therefore, LMI should be part of these four steps of career guidance. As the program goes on, you intersperse it with the relevant labor market information. So let me conclude with this statement. Although labor market trends are a powerful influence on career development, career guidance should not be chained to economic cycles. Yeah, it ought to be the personhood of the worker that lies at the heart of the process. Remember, at the heart of this is a human person, a human child, if he's in high school, or a human youth. And here, if we are not able to recognize the wonderful talents that this person has, and we're only looking at this person as, can you fit into the labor market, then we are not doing career guidance. We're doing job guidance. The key function of labor market information is to inform and not determine the career development process. Right, so let me stop there. We have 4 minutes or so. I'll hand it back to George and Asma. If there are questions or points, we discuss it.
Thank you, Mr. Gedeon, for your presentation about the labor market information system and the link to career guidance and how we may transfer the data and the labor information system into career guidance. And now I want to move to the Padlet. Please, we add a Padlet and we send to you via email, via forum. Now I put in the chat box the link to the Padlet. In the Padlet, we have added 4 questions that we would like to discuss tomorrow. The first question is about are there any gaps in career guidance service delivery that need to be addressed in your country? Are there any special target groups, for example, high school students, unemployed youth, parents? Okay. The third question, the inter-country collaboration opportunities between the Gulf countries and the career guidance. Okay, and the question number 4, how can the ILO support the Gulf countries to organize this collaboration with focus sure on South-South triangular cooperation? Please, we want you to add your comment, to add your ideas, okay, in this Padlet to be able to discuss tomorrow. You may write in Arabic or in English, up to you, okay? Maybe it's better to write in Arabic, okay? Please feel free to add anything inside this Padlet, okay? Now I want to ask you if someone wants to ask any question or any idea before closing. No one. So no. Okay. So, but please try to write your idea in the Padlet to be able to discuss tomorrow in the final session with Mr. Gedeon, with our teams from Geneva. Now we want to thank Duncan and Anastasia for joining us during today's session. I want to thank Mr. Gedeon for his information, his valuable information about labor market information system and the relation between career guidance and the data. I don't know, Anastasia, do you want to add something to us before closing?
Probably no. Thank you so much, George, for such a great moderating on the session, and many thanks to Gideon for a very interesting presentation. I literally cannot get out of the screen. It was super interesting, and I hope that participants of the seminar also share my view. And well, hope to see you all tomorrow to discuss our final and conclusion session. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. So thank you for all. Okay, شكرا للجميع. I will move to Arabic. شكرا للجميع.
Thank you all. Thank you for all the participants from the GCC countries, and I hopefully we would like to see all the comments, all your ideas that you will write down on the Padlet, and we will discuss all these ideas and how we can collaborate together with the ILO and GCC's South and North. It will be really interesting to understand your point of view. So hopefully we see you all tomorrow at the same time at 2 p.m. with Torino time. And I would be very glad to hear your voices as well tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Good evening, and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.